In the rapidly shifting digital landscape of 2025, where every organization depends on seamless remote access and uninterrupted connectivity, a new and alarming threat has emerged, one that is shaking the global cybersecurity community and exposing the fragility of our interconnected infrastructure. Over the past several weeks, more than 7,000 unique IP addresses scattered across the world have launched coordinated, relentless attacks against Palo Alto Network's GlobalProtect VPN portals. These aren't small nuisance scans or random internet noise. These are deliberate, active exploitation attempts targeting one of the most widely deployed VPN solutions on the planet. And the sheer scale of this campaign makes it one of the most significant cyber events of the year. The attacks were first observed in late November 2025, a time when most organizations are winding down for the year and attackers exploit the lull in vigilance. Threat intelligence platforms like GreyNoise and Shadowserver began reporting an unusual and rapidly intensifying spike in traffic specifically directed at GlobalProtect gateways. What made this activity stand out wasn't just the number of IPs involved, over 7,000 and counting, but their behavior. These addresses weren't simply pinging for open ports or probing generic surfaces. They were systematically enumerating, fingerprinting, and attempting exploitation against one precise target: GlobalProtect portals exposed to the public internet, especially those accessible via UDP port 4501. This port, though commonly used for certain GlobalProtect communication channels, becomes a dangerous access point when organizations fail to configure their systems correctly. Misconfigurations, weak authentication policies, outdated PAN-OS versions, and exposed services create precisely the kind of opportunities attackers wait for. What's even more concerning is that this wave of attacks appears to be highly coordinated. The attacking IPs span residential proxies, compromised servers, hijacked IoT devices, bulletproof hosting infrastructure, and low-cost virtual machines distributed across multiple continents. The behavior patterns match those used in past campaigns by skilled threat actors, not amateur hackers or random internet bots. These systems are performing pre-authentication checks, enumerating portal configurations, testing known command injection payloads, and attempting brute force or password spray attacks against vulnerable portals. They are also attempting to harvest session tokens that would allow them to impersonate legitimate users, an incredibly dangerous scenario since it gives attackers direct authenticated access into the heart of a corporate network. GlobalProtect has long been a favorite target among attackers because of its prevalence and importance. In the post-pandemic era, where hybrid and remote work have become permanent structures in many organizations, VPN portals remain critical entry points into internal systems. Their ubiquity makes them high-value targets, and their exposure to the internet makes them inherently vulnerable. Even organizations that follow general security best practices sometimes fail to patch or reconfigure their VPN gateways quickly enough. Historically, GlobalProtect has also had major vulnerabilities. One of the most notorious, CVE 2044-3400, revealed in April 2024, allowed attackers to execute commands remotely on firewalls and VPN appliances. The flaw carried a near maximum severity rating and served as a wake-up call for thousands of enterprises worldwide. Yet, even after patches were released, many devices remained vulnerable for months, an example of how difficult it can be for organizations with complex infrastructures to update essential systems. Attackers remember these weaknesses. They catalog them, study them, and wait for new opportunities to revive old exploits. The 2025 exploitation wave appears to be leveraging a combination of outdated system versions, known exploit paths, improperly secured portals, weak or missing MFA enforcement, and internet-exposed GlobalProtect services that should never have been publicly reachable in the first place. Threat researchers have noted that the current activity is reminiscent of campaigns run by sophisticated threat groups in the past, including state-linked advanced persistent threat actors with a long history of targeting edge devices such as VPNs, firewalls, and remote access gateways. Chinese-associated groups like UNC 484 have been known to exploit edge networking equipment for espionage operations, while ransomware operators and initial access brokers frequently target VPN appliances to gain footholds they can sell on dark markets. Although no specific actor has been conclusively identified yet, the scale, precision, and persistence of the current attacks strongly suggest an organized campaign by highly capable adversaries. The methodology behind the attacks follows a consistent pattern. First, attackers engage in mass scanning to identify GlobalProtect portals exposed to the Internet. Once detected, they perform detailed fingerprinting to determine the PAN-OS version, the authentication method and use, whether MFA is enabled, the SSL configuration, and even whether administrative portals have been mistakenly left reachable from the outside. Following this, attackers test known exploit payloads, many of which resemble modules found in public exploit frameworks like Metasploit. Simultaneously, they launch credential-based attacks, brute-forcing usernames and passwords, spraying password attempts across large sets of accounts, and comparing login behavior to patterns found in previously leaked credential dumps. If any system responds in a way that suggests vulnerability, attackers immediately escalate their attempts, seeking to steal valid session tokens or trick the portal into issuing unauthorized session data. Once they obtain these tokens, attackers can impersonate legitimate users, bypass authentication mechanisms, and gain access to the internal corporate network. Once inside, they begin lateral movement. They look for internal servers, domain controllers, cloud authentication brokers, file shares, and identity management systems. They search for logs, keys, credentials, configuration data, and anything else that could help them move deeper or establish persistence. The most worrying part of all this is that such attacks often go unnoticed for long periods of time. Traditional endpoint security solutions cannot detect compromises that occur at the VPN gateway level. Firewalls and VPN appliances sit at the network perimeter, sometimes without centralized monitoring or advanced detection capabilities. A skilled attacker who gains access through a compromised VPN token can blend into legitimate network traffic, appearing as a valid user and avoiding detection until significant damage has already occurred. Recognizing the severity of the situation, Palo Alto Networks issued an urgent advisory in early December 2025. They emphasized that GlobalProtect, when correctly configured and kept up to date, remains secure. However, the company warned all users that their portals are currently being targeted at unprecedented levels and urged immediate action. They advised organizations to enable multi-factor authentication for all VPN users, restrict the exposure of the GlobalProtect portal to the minimum necessary, apply all recent patches, disable unused authentication methods, and monitor traffic on UDP port 4501 for anomalies. Meanwhile, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency added related vulnerabilities and indicators of compromise to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, requiring all federal agencies to patch affected systems within a tight 72-hour window. Such a directive is rare and highlights the urgent, high-risk nature of the threat. This campaign matters greatly because it exposes a larger issue in modern cybersecurity: the continued reliance on traditional VPN systems in a world where attackers have become dramatically more organized, more automated, and more capable. Despite advancements in zero-trust network access, VPN portals remain foundational in many organizations, especially those with legacy systems or complex infrastructure dependencies. Attackers know this. They know that VPNs are often overlooked, slowly patched, or misconfigured. They know that organizations hesitate to modify VPN gateways because they are essential for daily operations. And so, they strike where the defenses are weakest. This wave of 7,000 attacking IPs is not just a major event, it is a global warning. It demonstrates how quickly attackers can mobilize thousands of distributed assets, how effectively they can leverage automation and AI-driven reconnaissance, and how vulnerable organizations remain when remote access portals are exposed to the internet. It underscores the need for rapid patch management, strict authentication controls, zero-trust segmentation, continuous monitoring, and a strategic shift away from legacy access models that grant broad network permissions. Above all, it reminds us that the greatest threats to organizations often come not from within their networks, but from the exposed digital doors placed at their perimeters, doors that thousands of attackers are now knocking on simultaneously. For organizations using Palo Alto GlobalProtect, this is a defining moment. The difference between staying secure and suffering a major breach may come down to how quickly they act. Applying updates, enforcing MFA, limiting portal exposure, reviewing authentication logs, monitoring traffic anomalies, and planning long-term transitions to modern zero-trust network architectures are not optional steps. They are urgent necessities. The threat is real, unfolding in real time and growing by the day. In a world where attackers collaborate at massive scale, defenders must be faster, smarter, and more proactive than ever before. The attacks on GlobalProtect are a reminder that cybersecurity. In the wake of the GlobalProtect attacks, it becomes increasingly clear that modern cybersecurity is not merely a technical challenge, it is a strategic, organizational, and human challenge. While the previous sections of this narrative focused on the mechanics of the attacks themselves, it is vital to consider the broader context, the organizational structures, the decision-making processes, and the geopolitical factors that shape how vulnerabilities are introduced, discovered, exploited, and defended against. Today, enterprises operate in a hyper-connected world where cloud adoption, remote access, and digital transformation initiatives have accelerated at a pace that often outstrips the ability of security teams to keep up. The tension between speed of deployment and rigor of security has never been higher, and attackers are exploiting this imbalance with unprecedented precision. Consider the average enterprise network in 2025. Thousands of endpoints, multiple cloud environments, on-premise legacy systems, numerous VPN gateways, and an array of third-party integrations. Every component introduces complexity, and every complexity introduces risk. Security teams must manage not only known vulnerabilities, but also configuration drift, undocumented access paths, and human errors. In such an environment, a single exposed GlobalProtect portal can become a gateway into the crown jewels of an organization: customer data, intellectual property, financial records, and strategic plans. Attackers know this, and they target not the weak individual system, but the weak ecosystem, the cumulative vulnerability created by interdependent systems and incomplete operational discipline. The attacks observed in late 2025 are a case study in such ecosystem exploitation. By coordinating thousands of IPs across multiple continents, attackers effectively transformed the global internet into a single reconnaissance and exploitation platform. Residential proxies provided camouflage, while hijacked IoT devices introduced noise and redundancy to frustrate attribution. Bulletproof hosting providers offered persistent, hard-to-take-down infrastructure. Automated frameworks driven by AI algorithms capable of learning from failed attempts allowed attackers to escalate their methods rapidly, pivot between exploitation techniques, and optimize success probabilities in real time. What might have been a series of disconnected, random attacks in prior decades is now a symphony of coordinated activity, a global choreography that challenges even the most well-resourced security operations centers. Moreover, the human element cannot be underestimated. Organizations frequently underestimate the importance of procedural security controls. For example, VPN user credentials are often recycled across multiple systems. Administrative access logs may be reviewed only sporadically, and incident response procedures are sometimes untested in realistic scenarios. Each of these gaps magnifies the effectiveness of sophisticated campaigns like the one targeting GlobalProtect. Security awareness training, regular phishing simulations, and continuous policy enforcement are no longer optional. They are fundamental defenses. The integration of security into everyday operational behavior, sometimes called security hygiene, can be the difference between a minor incident and a catastrophic breach.
The geopolitical dimension adds another layer of complexity. Nation-state actors, sometimes operating through proxy groups, target infrastructure not only for financial gain, but also for intelligence collection, economic disruption, and strategic leverage. VPN gateways are particularly attractive in this context because they provide authenticated access to internal networks without immediately triggering alarms. Information obtained from compromised networks can be used to map critical infrastructure, identify key personnel, or facilitate ransomware campaigns. The convergence of criminal and state-linked cyber activity means that defenders must think strategically. Attacks are not isolated events, but potential components of larger campaigns spanning months or years. Technical defenses, while critical, are only one part of the solution. Organizations must adopt a multi-layered approach, combining traditional network security with modern zero-trust architectures, microsegmentation, continuous monitoring, and threat intelligence integration. Zero Trust, in particular, minimizes the blast radius of any single compromise by enforcing identity verification and least privilege access for every connection. For GlobalProtect users, this could mean isolating VPN users into controlled segments, monitoring their session behavior in real time, and requiring adaptive authentication when anomalies are detected. Such measures not only prevent immediate compromise, but also provide forensic visibility in case of a breach, enabling rapid containment. The scale of the 2025 campaign offers another critical factor: automation and AI in cyber operations. Attackers increasingly rely on machine learning to adapt payloads, predict system responses, and prioritize targets. In response, defenders are deploying AI-driven detection, anomaly analysis, and automated response platforms. These systems can analyze terabytes of log data in real time, correlate signals across endpoints, and even initiate automated containment of compromised sessions. However, AI is not a silver bullet. False positives can disrupt operations, and overly rigid automation can fail to account for novel attack patterns. Human oversight, threat hunting expertise, and cross-functional collaboration remain indispensable. Global implications extend beyond individual organizations. Large-scale exploitation campaigns have the potential to impact critical national infrastructure, disrupt financial markets, or compromise sensitive research. In the public sector, agencies must coordinate rapidly with private sector partners to mitigate threats and disseminate actionable intelligence. The U.S. CISA directive requiring patching within 72 hours is emblematic of the high stakes. A delay of even days could result in widespread compromise across sectors. International collaboration is equally vital, as attack infrastructure often spans multiple jurisdictions. Sharing threat intelligence, harmonizing security standards, and pursuing coordinated enforcement against malicious hosting providers can reduce the effectiveness of such campaigns. In practical terms, organizations can take immediate and long-term actions to enhance security posture. Immediate actions include ensuring all VPN and firewall systems are fully patched, enabling strict multi-factor authentication, auditing exposed services, limiting internet-facing interfaces, and monitoring critical ports like ODP 4501 for suspicious traffic. Medium-term strategies involve segmenting access, deploying endpoint detection and response solutions, integrating SIEM and SAOR platforms, and conducting tabletop exercises to test incident response readiness. Long-term transformations involve adopting zero-trust network architectures, replacing legacy VPNs with modern identity-driven access solutions, implementing continuous compliance programs, and fostering a culture where security is integrated into every decision. It is also essential to consider the psychological and organizational impacts of such campaigns. Security teams face high stress and constant pressure, with attackers operating relentlessly across time zones. Maintaining resilience, avoiding alert fatigue, and providing clear leadership guidance are key to sustaining effective defense. Equally, communicating risks to executive leadership, board members, and operational teams ensures that security is prioritized appropriately, not treated as a siloed technical function. The lessons from the Global Protect 2025 campaign will reverberate for years. They underscore the evolving nature of cyber threats, the necessity of proactive defense, the value of collaboration, and the critical importance of adaptive, intelligence-driven security. As we look to the future, the organizations that internalize these lessons, invest in people, processes, and technology, and act with urgency will not only survive, but emerge stronger. Those that delay, rely on outdated systems, or underestimate the sophistication of modern attackers risk catastrophic outcomes. In conclusion, the Global Protect attacks are a defining moment in the ongoing evolution of cybersecurity. They illustrate the intersection of technology, strategy, human behavior, and geopolitics. They remind us that no system, no matter how widely deployed or trusted, is invulnerable. And they reinforce a fundamental principle. Security is not a static goal, but a continuous, evolving process that requires vigilance, intelligence, adaptability, and decisive action. As we look to the future, the organizations that embrace these principles, invest in comprehensive defenses, and cultivate a culture of security resilience will not only withstand the threats of today, but anticipate and mitigate the threats of tomorrow. Cybersecurity is no longer just a technical requirement. It is a strategic imperative, an operational necessity, and a matter of trust, continuity, and survival in the digital age. The next decade will test every assumption, every policy, and every control. But armed with knowledge, foresight, and proactive measures, defenders can ensure that the digital world remains a secure, reliable foundation for innovation, commerce, and human connection.
In the rapidly evolving landscape of cybersecurity, the events surrounding the 2025 Global Protect attacks represent more than isolated technical incidents. They are emblematic of a broader paradigm shift in how organizations must approach digital security. Modern cyber threats operate at the intersection of technology, human behavior, geopolitics, and organizational culture. They are no longer confined to singular vulnerabilities, but exploit systemic weaknesses across networks, processes, and decision-making hierarchies. Enterprises today face a complex mosaic of risks, ranging from targeted ransomware campaigns and sophisticated phishing operations to AI-enhanced automated exploits that adapt dynamically to defensive measures in real time. The operational realities of enterprise security in 2025 reveal a landscape of unprecedented complexity. Organizations rely on a mix of cloud infrastructures, on-premises systems, hybrid networks, and an array of third-party services. Each node in this network, whether it is an employee laptop, an IoT device, a cloud-hosted API, or a VPN gateway, represents a potential vector for compromise. Compounding this complexity is the rate at which new technologies are adopted. Cloud-native applications, containerized microservices, serverless architectures, and zero-trust networking models are deployed faster than security teams can fully assess their implications. The tension between innovation speed and security rigor creates gaps that attackers are highly adept at exploiting. Consider the anatomy of a large-scale coordinated attack. Malicious actors often begin with reconnaissance, mapping the network topography, identifying entry points, and collecting intelligence on user behavior. They may leverage compromised credentials purchased on dark web marketplaces, exploit unpatched vulnerabilities in widely deployed software, or infiltrate supply chains through trusted partners. Once access is gained, lateral movement across the network is carefully orchestrated to avoid triggering automated defenses. Advanced persistent threats, or APTs, operate silently, blending into normal traffic patterns, escalating privileges, and exfiltrating sensitive data over extended periods. The sophistication of such campaigns underscores the inadequacy of reactive security measures. Organizations must anticipate and disrupt attacks before they achieve operational goals. The human element remains a critical determinant in the success or failure of defensive operations.
Even the most advanced security infrastructure can be undermined by human error. Credential reuse, weak password policies, misconfigured systems, delayed patching, and lack of adherence to procedural controls are persistent vulnerabilities. Training programs and awareness campaigns are essential, but insufficient on their own. They must be coupled with automated policy enforcement, behavioral analytics, and continuous monitoring. The principle of security by design must permeate every aspect of organizational operations, from software development life cycles to procurement decisions and incident response protocols. Geopolitics further complicates the cybersecurity landscape. Nation-state actors, often operating through sophisticated cyber units, pursue strategic objectives that transcend traditional financial motivations. Intelligence gathering, disruption of critical infrastructure, influence operations, and economic espionage are common goals. VPN gateways, cloud services, and remote access portals are particularly enticing because they provide authenticated entry points to sensitive networks without immediately raising alarms. Coordinated campaigns often span multiple jurisdictions, leveraging legal and regulatory ambiguities to obfuscate attribution and complicate enforcement. Consequently, effective defense requires not only technical measures, but also strategic alliances, intelligence sharing, and collaboration across public and private sectors globally. In response to these evolving threats, enterprises must adopt multi-layered adaptive defense strategies. Zero trust architectures are no longer optional. They represent the foundational framework for minimizing the blast radius of breaches. By segmenting access, enforcing least privilege principles, and continuously validating user identity and device integrity, organizations can constrain attackers' lateral movement. Endpoint detection and response, network traffic analysis, and security information and event management, or SIEM platforms, provide the telemetry required for proactive threat hunting. Augmenting these with AI-driven analytics enhances detection, accelerates response times, and allows security teams to prioritize the most critical incidents. However, reliance on AI alone is insufficient. Human expertise, threat intelligence, and cross-functional collaboration remain indispensable for interpreting context, identifying novel attack patterns, and guiding strategic decision-making.
In the evolving world of cybersecurity, the events that unfolded in 2025 regarding GlobalProtect and Palo Alto networks stand as a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities that continue to exist in even the most widely trusted security infrastructures. While the immediate focus has been on the unprecedented scale of the attack and its technical specifics, there are deeper lessons to be learned about how cybersecurity needs to adapt to the ever-growing sophistication of modern threats. As we continue into an era marked by rapid digital transformation, organizations have become increasingly reliant on VPNs, cloud infrastructures, and hybrid systems. These technologies have become the backbone of enterprise operations, connecting remote teams, securing communications, and enabling seamless access to critical business resources. However, as these technologies have become more entrenched, so too have the vulnerabilities that come with their widespread deployment. The attacks against GlobalProtect in late 2025 underscore a critical point. No system, no matter how robust or well-known, is impervious to exploitation if proper precautions aren't consistently maintained. The nature of the GlobalProtect attacks was not simply about identifying and exploiting a single flaw or vulnerability. This was a concerted, multifaceted campaign involving thousands of unique IP addresses targeting multiple weak points across the entire system. It exemplifies a trend in modern cybercrime where attackers are not just opportunistic, they are organized, strategic, and sophisticated. The attackers in this campaign used a combination of tactics that included credential stuffing, brute force attacks, and advanced fingerprinting to gain unauthorized access. By leveraging weak configurations, outdated patches, and other systemic vulnerabilities, they effectively bypassed traditional security controls that most organizations rely on. This type of coordinated cyber assault challenges traditional defenses. Firewalls and VPNs, once considered frontline defenses against remote threats, are now among the most targeted systems in modern IT infrastructures. The focus on GlobalProtect illustrates how attackers have evolved from merely probing for simple entry points to executing highly methodical and deliberate campaigns designed to exploit every conceivable vulnerability. Attackers are now able to scale their operations at an unprecedented level using botnets, residential proxies, and compromised IoT devices to launch distributed attacks that are difficult to trace or counteract. In many ways, the GlobalProtect incident acts as a microcosm of a larger problem facing the cybersecurity community: the growing gap between the speed of technological innovation and the ability to secure systems effectively. In a world where businesses are rapidly adopting cloud technologies, embracing hybrid architectures, and constantly innovating to remain competitive, security often takes a back seat. The unfortunate reality is that many organizations are playing catch-up when it comes to patch management and configurations. Despite knowing the risks, many businesses delay patching vulnerabilities, often because of the perceived complexity or operational impact of updates. This delay in patch management opens the door for sophisticated adversaries to exploit these gaps, just as we saw with GlobalProtect. What this breach has shown is that traditional methods of securing networks are no longer enough. Organizations must rethink their security models. The old perimeter-based security approach, securing the network edge and trusting internal systems, is no longer sufficient. Cyber attackers are no longer trying to breach the perimeter. Instead, they're looking for ways to exploit the weakest link in the chain, often within the very infrastructure that organizations rely on to stay connected. This shift has necessitated a move toward zero-trust architectures, where the idea of trusting internal systems is replaced with continuous verification of every user and device, no matter where they are located. By assuming that every access request is potentially malicious, organizations can better safeguard their networks from a broad range of sophisticated threats. A zero-trust model operates on the principle that security should be built into the system from the ground up. It requires organizations to verify every access attempt by authenticating users, devices, and even network traffic before granting any level of access. This approach limits the scope of any potential breach, making it more difficult for attackers to move laterally through a network once they gain access to an initial entry point. With the rise of AI-driven cyber attacks, the importance of zero-trust security has never been more apparent. Zero-trust systems are built to monitor every action, using advanced algorithms and behavioral analysis to detect any deviations from normal activity. This continuous monitoring means that even if an attacker manages to slip through the cracks, their activities are more likely to be detected in real time. Moreover, as organizations increasingly rely on third-party services, APIs, and cloud environments, the attack surface expands exponentially. A breach at the level of a VPN gateway like GlobalProtect is just one example of how attackers can exploit interconnected systems. Each new piece of technology or partner integration creates another point of vulnerability, which can be exploited if not properly secured. Cloud environments, for instance, often require additional layers of protection due to their shared nature. While the cloud offers greater flexibility and scalability, it also requires a deeper understanding of shared responsibility models. The responsibility for securing data, systems, and networks is a collaborative effort between cloud providers and the organizations using their services. Failure to understand this shared responsibility can lead to security gaps, which attackers can exploit. In parallel to these technological and strategic challenges, there's a pressing need for businesses to adopt a cultural shift when it comes to cybersecurity. The 2025 GlobalProtect breach serves as a reminder that security cannot be siloed in an IT team or relegated to an afterthought during system updates.
Instead, security needs to be ingrained into the DNA of every organization. This means fostering a security-first mindset across all departments, from HR and operations to the executive suite. Employee education, for example, remains one of the most effective tools in preventing successful attacks. Human error continues to be one of the top causes of security breaches, whether through clicking on phishing emails, misconfiguring systems, or failing to implement proper authentication practices. Regular security training and phishing simulations should be standard practice for every organization, ensuring that employees remain vigilant and aware of the latest threats. Another aspect of cybersecurity that businesses often overlook is the importance of incident response planning. When a breach occurs, time is of the essence. The quicker an organization can identify, contain, and remediate the issue, the less damage will be done. However, many organizations still operate without a well-defined incident response plan, leaving them unprepared when a breach happens. An effective plan should include clear communication protocols, well-documented procedures, and the necessary tools to contain and mitigate the attack. In the case of GlobalProtect, the sheer scale and sophistication of the attack would have overwhelmed many organizations' defenses if they hadn't been properly prepared. Equally important is collaboration. No organization can tackle cybersecurity alone. The interconnectedness of the modern world means that attacks are rarely isolated events. They often span multiple organizations, regions, and even nations. That's why sharing threat intelligence, collaborating with external partners, and participating in information sharing initiatives are crucial components of modern cybersecurity. Whether through private sector forums, government-led initiatives, or shared databases, the more information organizations have about the tactics, techniques, and procedures used by attackers, the better equipped they are to defend against future incidents. This collaborative approach helps create a more resilient digital ecosystem where organizations can learn from each other's experiences and improve their defenses. In conclusion, the GlobalProtect attacks are not an isolated incident. They represent a wake-up call for the entire cybersecurity industry. As digital landscapes continue to evolve, organizations must evolve with them. Cybersecurity cannot be treated as an afterthought or an obstacle to business operations. It must be integrated into every aspect of the organization. The key to surviving these increasingly sophisticated threats lies in adopting a comprehensive, multi-layered security strategy that combines zero-trust principles, advanced threat detection systems, incident response preparedness, and a strong organizational culture of security. As organizations continue to innovate and expand their digital footprints, the importance of cybersecurity will only grow. The lessons learned from GlobalProtect will shape the future of enterprise security, reminding us that in the digital age, the cost of a breach is not just measured in financial terms, but in the loss of trust, credibility, and continuity. Cybersecurity is no longer a technical challenge. It's a strategic imperative that determines the very future of businesses in the digital age.